The World According to Brock. I think this is a fantastic opportunity to get up close and personal with Brocky. I've known Peter for many years and this program is a unique insight into what makes PB tick. Peter has been asked many times to speak about his philosophy on life and his has certainly been an extraordinary one. So sit back and spend an evening with Brocky. Believe me, he can say things that you'd often like to say but can't. Peter has a unique ability to get to the heart of the matter and what he says makes a hell of a lot of sense. Now he openly speaks about it on this program. He listens, he communicates and reaches people in all walks of life and he asks the questions. So welcome to The World According to Brock. I'm Andrew Gaze.
Welcome to The World According to Brock. Life, as they say, is a journey, and every step of my journey has and continues to shape my own future.
Peter Brock was born on the 26th of February 1945. His parents, Ruth and Jeff Brock, came from Hurstbridge, a small community on the northeast fringe of Melbourne.
Look, as a kid, I really pushed the envelope. I'll be absolutely clear about that. I think it'd be fair to say my parents probably thought, what have we done to get this kid? I mean, he won't listen to us, he's off there doing his own stuff, and you know, he's headstrong and he's just going to do things his way. And certainly I can tell you that I felt compelled to do a lot of things like that. I was very fortunate. I had a fairly athletic sort of approach to life. I could get out there and run and jump and play footy and play cricket and swim and what have you, until cars finally got me. And I thought, yeah, hey, this car business is not bad. I can actually get this thing to do what I tell it to do. And to me, it made a lot of sense.
The warm summer air is suddenly shattered. The young man, Peter Brock, knows that at the Gumtree it's a sharp right. Then over the rise, along the old creek bed. Then a long, slow, snaking curve around a disused orchard. And then back to his excited pit crew.
So, as far as I was concerned, the moment that I actually took to driving, I found something I loved doing. I found what it is in life that was really my heart's desire, the thing I knew was right for Peter Brock.
The Brock family ancestry dates back to the beginning of Australian motorsport. Henry V. James, a great-uncle of Jeff Brock, Peter's father, was a founder of the Automobile Club of Victoria. He organised what became the first races on the east coast of Australia. It was those early family ties that captured Jeff's attention towards motorsport, and the fascination filtered through his young family.
When I started working for Austin Distributors in Melbourne, which used to be the old Austin Healey agents, and they raced them, I used to go along and take Peter and take the family. And of course Peter would never leave the fence, you know, he'd never be looking for ice creams or anything. He was mad keen.
Well, I always knew he'd be involved in some way with cars because he loved them so much. And when he decided to go racing, yes, we encouraged him. we said we would support him.
Well, the first noises he made as a baby were almost motor car noises, and then he'd ride his bike, you know, and he'd ride it as though it had a motor in it, and then he went on from that, you know. Started driving on the farm here in the trucks. My dad used to let him drive the truck around. He'd set it going for him. It was too small to reach the pedals, but he'd steer it while Dad hopped up in the back and threw the grass hay out.
The Brock boys, Neil, Peter, Lewis, Philip, were all exposed to motorised sport at an early age. But Peter positively thrived on life behind a wheel, and this odd-looking vehicle was his outlet. Believe it or not, this was an Austin 7. Peter, with support from his father, assembled this from some derelict 7s in his spare time. In 1960, when Peter was 15, he watched the very first Armstrong 500, the forerunner to the Bathurst 1000. And throughout the day, Peter would jump into the beast and thrash around the family paddocks as if he were in the race. 7 years later, Peter realized his ultimate dream. Backed by his parents, his racing debut was made in this ungainly 179 powered Austin A30 at Winton. In it, he won a staggering 102 races over 65 meetings, and a motor racing career was launched.
We started going to Bathurst, of course, with his first drive, and that was an amazing situation. We had a business in which Peter was involved called the Diamond Valley Speed Shop, and Peter sat at the phone there, I reckon, for 3 weeks, waiting for Harry Firth to ring him. He'd had an interview with him and done a test drive. And of course, when Harry rang, Peter was over the moon, and he popped in on his way to Bathurst with the race car. They drove it there, and of course, the next day we hopped in our car and away we went. And never been there before, went up the mountain and had a pretty rugged time really, but anyway, he came in third and we were really pleased about that.
Working on the rest of the collection of Brocky's cars. As they come out, I'll get them. It's the first one of Brocky's Bathurst ones that I think could be out on display. I'm glad he come back actually, because he was one of the blokes that when I was following races 20 years ago, he was a bloke I loved to hate, because I was a Ford man and Brocky was always out in front, and you had to hate him or you loved him. So now he's back, I think he'll do all right, you know, because it's good to see him come back and have a go, because I reckon that's what made motorsport. Blokes like Peter Brock, Dick Johnson, Alan Moffat, Gricey, it's his name, Jensen, they all made motorsport, and I like to see the older drivers come back and show the young blokes how it's done.
This is
Bathurst,
remarkable.
7:30 p.m. Saturday, the night before the great race. The Bathurst 1000, Mount Panorama, New South Wales, Australia. Brock fans in pursuit. And Peter Brock complies. No complaints, no questions asked. The relentless pursuit of the fans has continued through the week leading up to the race, as it has whenever Brocky is in the public eye. These people are the fuel that powers the legend, the phenomenon that is Peter Brock.
I think it'd be good. I think this thing would actually be a sweet little vehicle run. Wet weather tyres and everything else.
They have travelled to the mountain on a pilgrimage to witness the return of the king of the mountain. It's 15 years since Peter Brock won his last Bathurst 1000, and 5 years since he last drove the notorious circuit. But now, he's come back to Bathurst.
My dear old dog, Dougie, he would he'd love hopping in there. You put him in there, he's about 14 and he's struggling a bit. Oh, it's very nice.
It's the 40th anniversary of the great race, and the King's 30th anniversary, with the possibility of a 10th win to add to his unparalleled victories over the mountain.
I've got to go. Thank you.
Okay, folks.
You don't have to be a Brock fan to be aware of him and his equally famous 05 car. They've had a dominant impact on all forms of motorsport, particularly in Australia and New Zealand, over many years. Come with us now, as we put you in the passenger seat alongside Brocky for the ride of your life, to trace the remarkable life of this most remarkable Australian.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Well, what do you reckon about that? Hey, mate, I've been waiting years for this sort of shit, you know? I've been following him. I've got all his memorabilia. I've got everything of his. It's just busting our ass. Excuse the expression, to get here to see him and meet him. It's just, he's just unbelievable, this bloke. Yeah. I've had this thing for 3 years, but I was going to paint it his colours, his old colours. Yeah. But when I heard him coming back, we just hung out and hooked into it. That's what it's all about, you know? Follow those who love you. All right? All the best. Thanks, matey. Cheers.
With a Bathurst record of 28 starts in succession, 6 pole positions, 9 wins, 11 podium finishes, and 22 finishes, Peter Brock has rightfully earned the crown as King of the Mountain. So why did he contemplate coming back from self-imposed retirement at the age of 57 to tackle what must be one of the world's most demanding touring race car events and confront the young guns of the V8 supercar circuit?
We've had this land here, us Brocks, maybe 140 years. And although it's not that far from Melbourne, it's just a beautiful place to be. Well, as you can see, it's a magnificent panoramic view up here. Those lovely rolling fields there across the Great Dividing Range. And I suppose you might wonder, is this what your average garden variety ex-racing car driver does in their spare time? Do they all have one of these buildings? Probably not. Probably not. In fact, I'd say that they do not. But it suits me. Places like this, where you can sit back and sort of get life into perspective, they play a very, very important role in allowing you to see life for what it truly is, and that is a magnificent learning experience.
Peter Brock was born on the 26th of February 1945. His parents, Ruth and Jeff Brock, came from Hurstbridge, a small community on the northeast fringe of Melbourne.
Look, as a kid, I really I pushed the envelope. I'll be absolutely clear about that. I think it'd be fair to say my parents probably thought, what have we done to get this kid? I mean, he won't listen to us, he's off there doing his own stuff, and you know, his head's strong and he's just going to do things his way. And certainly I can tell you that I felt compelled to do a lot of things like that. I was very fortunate. I had a fairly athletic sort of approach to life. I could get out there and run and jump and play footy and play cricket and swim and what have you, until cars finally got me. And I thought, yeah, hey, this car business is not bad. I can actually get this thing to do what I tell it to do. And to me, it made a lot of sense.
The warm summer air is suddenly shattered. The young man, Peter Brock, knows that at the Gumtree it's a sharp right. Then over the rise, along the old creek bed. Then a long, slow, snaking curve around a disused orchard. And then back to his excited pit crew.
So, as far as I was concerned, the moment that I actually took to driving, I found something I loved doing. I found what it is in life that was really my heart's desire, the thing I knew was right for Peter Brock.
The Brock family ancestry dates back to the beginning of Australian motorsport. Henry V. James, a great-uncle of Jeff Brock, Peter's father, was a founder of the Automobile Club of Victoria. He organised what became the first races on the east coast of Australia. It was those early family ties that captured Jeff's attention towards motorsport, and the fascination filtered through his young family.
When I started working for Austin Distributors in Melbourne, which used to be the old Austin Healey agents, and they raced them, I used to go along and take Peter and, take the family. And of course Peter would never leave the fence, you know, he'd never be looking for ice creams or anything. He was mad keen.
Well, I always knew he'd be involved in some way with cars because he loved them so much. And when he decided to go racing, yes, we encouraged him. We said we would support him.
Well, the first noises he made as a baby were almost motor car noises. And then he'd ride his bike, you know, and he'd ride it as though it had a motor in it. And then he went on from that, you know. Started driving on the farm here in the trucks. My dad used to let him drive the truck around. He'd set it going for him. It was too small to reach the pedals, but he'd steer it while Dad hopped up in the back and threw the grass hay out.
The Brock boys, Neil, Peter, Lewis, Philip, were all exposed to motorised sport at an early age. But Peter positively thrived on life behind a wheel, and this odd-looking vehicle was his outlet. Believe it or not, this was an Austin 7. Peter, with support from his father, assembled this from some derelict 7s in his spare time. In 1960, when Peter was 15, he watched the very first Armstrong 500, the forerunner to the Bathurst 1000, and throughout the day Peter would jump into the beast and thrash around the family paddocks as if he were in the race. 7 years later, Peter realized his ultimate dream. Backed by his parents, his racing debut was made in this ungainly 179 powered Austin A30 at Winton. In it he won a staggering 102 races over 65 meetings, and a motor racing career was launched.
We started going to Bathurst, of course, with his first drive, and that was an amazing situation. We had a business in which Peter was involved called the Diamond Valley Speed Shop, and Peter sat at the phone there, I reckon, for 3 weeks, waiting for Harry Firth to ring him. He'd had an interview with him and done a test drive. And of course, when Harry rang, Peter was over the moon, and he popped in on his way to Bathurst with the race car. They drove it there, and of course the next day we hopped in our car and away we went. And never been there before, went up the mountain and had a pretty rugged time really, but anyway, he came in third and we were really pleased about that.
This car is a replica of the 1963 Cortina GT that Bob Jane and Harry Firth drove to victory here at Mount Panorama in the first year.
And they used to tell us, the New South Wales people, tell, oh, this is our piece of dirt up here, you people don't know what you're doing. Well, I think we proved that wrong.
Certainly did, yeah. Took over the race there early.
Well, we drove around Bathurst in an entirely different way to what they did. Because we used to go, for instance, before that at Phillip Island, we'd just take a stand in the car and go down and do 500 miles. See what broke.
Yep.
Well, we were quite used to, you know, dealing with new tracks and all that sort of thing. And we evolved a completely different way of going around Bathurst. to what the locals did. I go up there, I've been there the last couple of years, I'm going to go up again this year.
Harry and I formed a very special sort of bond over 30 years. In many respects, I suppose I was the son that he never had, and that he's always supported me and given me little tidbits of information and shared a lot with me. And we do get along very well. I mean, I admire Harry enormously, and I know that he's got a bit of a soft spot for me as well.
Another great influence in Brockie's motor racing career is Ron Harrop, another Bathurst veteran.
But as I went over the hump up the back straight there and brake to the corner, there was just nothing at all, and just went into the fence, probably about 80 mile an hour, I'd say.
Well, I've certainly known Peter for, geez, it must be 30-something years anyway. I can remember when I probably first met him was on trips when he was going to Oran Park in Sydney with his A30, and I was going to Castlereagh, which was a drag strip in Sydney, and he had his 179 engine A30 and I had a 179 engine FJ Holden, and we'd sometimes meet in roadhouses along the way.
From hotted-up Tiranas to high-end technology, Ron Harrop is today one of the world's leaders in automotive engineering.
Ron Harrop and I had been talking for some time about getting involved in getting a race team happening. Ron, brilliant engineer and well-known in the motor racing world, sort of thought, I want to do something. I want to get out there and start building bits and pieces and getting out there and showing the rest of the world that my company has that expertise, and so he'd use it to keep his company's name out there and get a few of those other race teams knocking on his door saying, hey, we need what you've got.
Although Brock's decision to drive has not been announced,
Peter Brock.
Team Brock was gearing itself for the great race. The famous 05 racing number was still in mothballs. Team Brock would drive the 54 car.
Looking trim and taut, terrific. Something on? What do you have on your agenda for the next little while, say the next month or so?
I've got my fitness regime, of course, down there, a bit of a swim and stuff like that.
By now, speculation and rumours were rife about the possible return of Peter Brock. But one of the main concerns about him driving again was the uncertain ability of a 57-year-old body to withstand the demands such a race would put on a V8 supercar driver.
I've had different people say to me at times that, oh yeah, you've been thinking about this for a while. Oh yeah, this has sort of been happening. It's been in the loop. And I've seen you out there sort of training and looking after your health and stuff like that. And I thought, well, someone else knows something I don't know, because I was just doing it. I mean, I was just out there. I decided, I guess, going back towards the earlier months of the year 2002, to sort of, I thought I feel like doing a bit of exercise. I felt like I was sort of sitting around and stagnating a bit. Not that I was inactive, but I just felt like it. And so I just started a bit of swimming and a bit of walking and a bit of general stuff to get my body moving. And curiously enough, when the offer was put to me and I sort of thought about it, and thought, oh, that's an interesting proposition. And one of the areas that I could totally dismiss was I physically capable of doing it? I mean, a lot of people figure that once you get to a certain time in your life, that you are incapable of doing certain things. It's a limitation, I guess, that people impose upon themselves because of, I suppose, every book they read, the newspapers, etc. say, oh, if you're a certain age, that's it, you are over the hill. So I've always been a bit of a contrary side, haven't I, Beth?
That goes without saying. But the bottom line of it all is that your commitment to doing this properly has been greater than I've ever seen it before. I'd have to say right back from when I first got to know you, and we were a lot younger then, in fact you were averse to the thought of ever going to the gym.
Oh,
this is the first time in your life you've ever done
gym?
Nine have got a cross at
August 14th, 2002 at Motorola headquarters in Melbourne. The announcement the motoring world was waiting for.
His attitude has been, when the time is right, when he's got everything organised, well, he'll do it. When the time is right, he has got everything organised, so he's Peter Brock. I'll tell you for why.
Thanks, Classic. Thanks, folks. Firstly, it does give me a great deal of delight to be here, particularly at Motorola's offices to make this announcement. I've certainly been part of the decision-making process. A number of reasons. I suppose the geriatrics of Australia, the pensioners, the over 55s, etc., they're all hanging out for this, saying, well, if Brocky did do it, maybe there's hope for me. Going to Bathurst this year is going to be one of the great adventures of my life.
And I think I can potentially make a bit of a statement for people here who are perhaps figuring that life has passed them by. And I know a lot of kids I went to school with, and a lot of people that I've began my motor racing career with, a lot of them have basically given up. They say, I can't, no, I don't see it that way, and I've always made sure that my body's working right and everything else, so that when I want to do something, well, my body responds, yeah.
But there are those people who have said that you went out on a high and why blot your copybook? And I have to be honest, when we first told James, his thing was that...
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, ever since he left his last race at Bathurst, where unfortunately they didn't finish but had quite a good start to it, you know, everyone's always sort of asked me, you know, if he's going to go back and do it again, and when are you two going to join up and do the race together and all that sort of stuff. And honestly, I'm not sure if I don't know how I'd feel about him going back out there and doing it again. It's a hard question for someone who's had so much success. Whether going back out there would be a wise thing to do, but I don't know. I suppose he's still, at the end of the day, loves driving. The passion's never left him, and after doing Targa this year, he's definitely not lost any of his talent.
Targa Tasmania is one of the world's greatest motoring events. In April 2002, Peter Brock and son James competed with all the aggression and determination to win that you could expect from a car with that famous name stenciled on the side.
saying to James, don't look at results, just go each day and see where they're going to start off each morning. Go, oh, we're doing all right.
Well, I'm telling you, you're either in 6th or 7th.
Well, all I can say is that there must be some sort of error going on, but it's every now and then things work our way, so this is good.
So I think it's going to be it'll be a very interesting thing to see, and I'm sure that he'd have a lot of support out there to go and do it. And look, if he does, I just wish him all the best.
Targa Tassie was something that did affect my decision-making process a bit. I remember Plastic ringing Bev just after Targa and saying, Bev, geez, Brock went pretty well down here. Has he thought about sort of the mountain bits? And give me a break. She said, you know, he will or he won't, depending on what he... No, he sort of said, once you use your influence, she said, yeah, you're wasting time, you know.
We've grown up with Brocky, mate. That's why we follow HRT, because Brock is HRT. So, you know, if you want to follow a car, mate, follow Brocky.
Yeah, I reckon it's great. Fantastic. Good to see. Champion like Brocky should be there.
Doesn't mean anything to me, mate. I'm a Dodge man.
Oh, I just think the King of the Mountain and all that history coming back, I think it's fantastic.
I just think Peter Brock coming back to the Bathurst Mountain is the best thing that's ever happened.
We'll be there to see him.
We'll be there to see him.
I never got to see Brocky at Bathurst, but this year I'm going to get to, so that'll be a great thing, I reckon.
He's a legend and we're going to be there to see him.
Yeah.
Peter Brock,
he's
a legend.
He's a legend, top bloke.
Brocky, well, I'm a Ford fan from hell, but Brocky's a legend.
Yeah, I hope he wins it.
I wouldn't even know his age. Oh, is he? He's old.
He's never too old. Never too old to drive a car. So everyone's really keen. They all want him back.
I think it's awesome. He's an awesome driver. He's excellent.
He drives a Holden car. He used to. Holden rocks!
I think it's great. Can't wait to race against him at Bathurst.
So what are you driving?
I'm driving for Caterpillar. So yeah, it'll be good fun. I might be able to learn something from him.
I really think that he can stir some of these people up and show them what it's about. He wasn't a champion that long for nothing. He knows what it's all about and he knows how to do it.
It'll be really good to see him come back. I reckon he'll be a classic. I would like to see him win, even though I'm a Ford fan, I would like to see him win.
He's a good driver. Love him, mate.
You know, in your last race, you might have been leading at Bathurst, but the car didn't finish. Well, nobody remembers that. They just remember that you went out there giving 110%, and your fans, no matter what you do, are going to be there totally supporting you. So it's, you know, there was a lot of questions, a lot of soul searching, and I have to say that
at the end of the day, tossed the note at some point, but it was realistically a not an easy decision to make, but it went from being an interesting idea into being something which I regard now as being, you know, pretty well essential.
Absolutely.
Because there's so many other factors involved. I mean, we've got our own V8 supercar race team.
I guess I've always had a feeling that a car's got to look right. And I'm talking about how stickers are placed on the car. And let's face it, that's a major part of how motor racing works. I mean, sponsors are there and they all like to have their sign as big as possible, but there's got to be a balance about it all. There's got to be a look that says,
this car is right. There's a balance about it, cohesiveness about it, and when you look at the symmetry of I guess, there's the front of the car, there's the back of the car, there's the lines going through it, etc. It's got to look right. And I guess the very first time I noticed that was back in 1972 with the Tirana XU1s, which popped up with a brand new paint job and immediately went fast. If a car looks good and people feel good about it, it goes a long way towards, I guess, that team, getting that team spirit that is so vital to winning races. I think going to Bathurst this year is going to be one of the great adventures of my life.
Looks all right, though.
When the idea was put to me by the people that run V8 Supercar Racing, people from Avesco, as things progressed, it became obvious that this was more than an interesting proposal. It was almost becoming what I would term to be something that was essential if we were really going to get our team to operate at the very highest levels. Well, Richard, that's going to be good up there. Yeah.
That's good.
George Reynolds co-drove with Bob in 1964 and he's here this morning as well.
There's a few blokes here.
It's amazing how you over 55ers just automatically gravitate to one another.
What, you two?
No, you're in there.
Over 55?
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I'm a youngster.
54 and 3/4.
3/4.
You're going to crack 55 up there?
I'll be 55 just before up there.
Will you really?
That was huge coverage, right? Darren Hinch wants to speak to you too.
Does he?
You want to have a word to him?
Sure.
Brock interviews. Can I get you with Bob more controversy?
Yeah, I do. More.
If I could. Triple Evans. Gee,
what are you doing there? You're going, what are you doing? You go, no, it's foolish. Hello, Bob.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to you, Bob.
Bob, how's things?
Bob.
Good, mate.
Dickie boy.
Good.
Hi, mate.
Welcome out.
Thanks, mate.
You driving with him, Bob? Or?
Yeah, Bob and I.
We've all heard a lot about this man in the last day or so. Mr. Peter Brock is here this morning. So too is Jim Richards, Dick Johnson. Understand Larry Perkins and Russell Ingall may have just turned up. John Harvey is here. Mark Scaife, the defending Bathurst champion. Jason Bright, Greg Murphy, Garth Tander and Jason Bardwana are also here. So if those drivers could just come up towards the front of the stage there and we can grab a quick photo opportunity. Basically, folks, the...
H.
Tony Longhurst is here, of course.
Yeah, I think you should.
Mark
I need you, Harry.
Congratulations.
Thanks, mate.
Good news, good news.
Put your hands together, folks, past and present champions at Mount Panorama. These are the guys that made this race so special, such an integral part of Australian motorsport history.
Although the inevitability of the great race is looming, Brock has no hesitation in honouring commitments made to friends and colleagues. What he wasn't to know was that those commitments had the potential to shatter his dream of tackling the mountain one more time.
All the big names in racing are here. Brock, Goss, Grice, Richards, Carter, Rogers, Morris, Shivers, Harrop, Harvey and Bartlett. The legends really warmed up the HQs and the fans took advantage of the rare chance to rub shoulders with so many heroes that shaped the sport they love.
At this particular point in time, I'm not too sure which track we're on or actually what the whole format is, so it's going to be a very interesting experience.
They may be legends of yesteryear, but they aren't afraid to learn some new tricks. You would not believe this. They're going to do battle at the Speedway on the dirt in, of all things, go-karts.
What was meant to be a fun night go-karting ended in near tragedy.
How you feeling?
Oh, not too good.
Not too good. Looked pretty spectacular up there.
Yeah, well, spun, drove to the top of him, and landed on the something in my bit back there isn't good.
On Sunday, August 25th, less than 24 hours after the go-karting crash with a compressed vertebra and suspected neck and shoulder injury, Brock tackled the unforgiving Australian Safari Rally for 8 days of bone-shattering outback torture. These were to be 8 days that would test not only his body, but question his philosophy and resolve to return to Bathurst.
It was a bit of a big accident yesterday for you, wasn't it? Yeah, it was last night. As we speak, it was Saturday night at the Speedway in Darwin. And I thought this is a long, long way away from the start of the Australian Safari at Bathurst. The first thing I thought of was this machine is bouncing up and down the road. I thought, Safari, uh-oh. Anyway, I decided to do it, come down here. And, you know, it's strange. Once you start your next stage and you get into the rhythm of the whole thing, if you can stop your mind from wandering, it works out okay. If you think about how sore you feel, you get sore.